Hey, welcome back, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the channel. The doctor has got the track racer seat set up on the top frame here now, and I'm just doing some measurements, getting stuff clamped into place, working out how this is all going to sit and how this is all going to work to be an adjustable seat on our top frame of the 3 degree of freedom motion simulator platform that we're building. So bear with me, guys. Obviously, this is a new thing for the doctor because my old frame, the seat wasn't set up like this. Okay, so I'm working this all out now, getting the measurements, getting the materials, getting it sorted, and I'm going to be back very shortly with everything you need to get your seat set up on your top frame. Oh, welcome to the doctor's dark and dingy corner of the workshop. Now, the doctor's just going to bend a little bit of box here in his homemade 32-ton pneumatic press. Now, I'm going to bend this into shape because this piece of box here will become the rear seat support at the top. So it needs to be bent on a particular angle. Now, the doctor's going to do that with his press, and you guys aren't going to have a press, more than likely, but we'll be able to basically work out the angle that the doctor has bent this to. Then that will mean that we'll have to cut your box on some funky angles and re-weld it. All will be clear very shortly. Let's just get to the bending. What could possibly go wrong? Okay, that should be about it. That'll be close. Anyway, I'll get back to you guys very shortly with what is going on here. Apologies, guys. It's got to be some freehand camera work again, so I can show you what's going on here. So what we're doing is we're building a brace for the back of our seat. Now, this brace, obviously, that I'm building here is based on my track racer seat. All right, so if you're not using a track racer, your dimensions and stuff for this bracing are going to be different to mine. So anyone that's going to use this track racing seat, this is absolutely going to be relevant to you. Whoever's going to incorporate this build into their seat, you're going to have to once again become creative and work out basically off what we've done here. You'll be able to use what we've done here as a guide, but you'll have to tweak it for your seat. Simple as that. The bones of this bracing are just made from 25 by 25 box, right? We've got a bend in it, a 15 degree bend in it. Well, actually it's a 16 degree bend in our vertical piece of box here. It's ended up at being 16 degrees. Okay, and then I've bent into shape because our seat's round. I bent into shape some 50 by 5 mil flat steel that is 300 millimeters in length. Okay, so I'm gonna get this all back on the bench now, get the phone on a tripod, and then run you through all the dimensions and what you're gonna need to do to build this bracing. Okay, I'm just gonna talk about our main bracing part here, okay? This piece at the bottom here, this will be talked about in relation to the rest of the seat after we've gone through this, because this is the most technical part of the seat build, is this little bit of bracing. So as mentioned, let's start with our flat steel. You'll need a length of 300 millimeter, 50 by 5 mil thick flat steel. At each end, you'll need to measure in 50 millimeters, okay? Make a mark, draw with a square, put this in your vise at that 50 millimeter mark, and with a hammer, you'll tap this around until you can get it in a round shape like this. Both ends. See that? It's not much. It's about, geez, I'd say that would have to be about, 10 degrees, 12 degrees or something like that. And right in the center, so at 150 millimeters, at the 150 millimeter mark, you need to also put that in your vise and just tap it a little bit each side and bend it in a little bit each side as well. Okay, it's not exactly straight in the center. I've bent it up a little bit in the center as well, and then I've set those ends at those 50 millimeter points in roughly 10 degrees. The box that this is welded onto, and just by the by, this is welded flush at the top, okay? So this length of box is 480 millimeters in length. So you need to cut a length of 25 by 25 box at 480 millimeters. Okay, you'll take your tape measure and you will measure 330 millimeters. Make a mark, put your square on and draw a line. So you'll need to put your protractor on in the center. All right, measure out 8 degrees offset each side, because this will be a total of 16 degrees. 2 8-degree marks that make a V. Then you're going to cut right through your box at those 2 8-degree marks, and then you're going to be able to bend your box together, and then you'll weld it. You'll just do little tacks around both sides and weld that in at 16 degrees. That's what you need to do to make this bracing for your track racer seat. Let's talk about what we need to get this seat frame together. You need to go out and purchase yourself 1 metre of 30 by 30 by 1.6 millimetre thick angle. 1 metre. You need to cut 2 lengths of 475 millimetres of your angle. You will need to cut 3 lengths of 555 millimetres in length of your 25 by 25 box. So 3 lengths at 555 millimetres in length. Now on 2 of them, where our seat is going to sit, we're going to mark where our seat is going to sit. Once again, I've used my cutting disc to put some little notches in here, so when I clean up, I can't lose my marks. These need to be measured in from the edge on both sides, 45 millimetres. So at both ends of your box, you will measure in 45 millimetres. Make a mark, okay, and just notch them in with your cutting discs so you can't lose them. And then clean up an area that's basically 90 millimetres in length, all right? Clean all the paint off. This is the top side of your box. Now on the bottom side of your box, you want to measure the midway point, okay, at both ends on all 3 pieces on the bottom side. On the 3rd piece, we don't have to do this mark, right, because it's carrying our bracing for the back of our seat. But on all 3 of them, find the centre of the width of your box, which is 12.5 millimetres, and put a little notch in, okay? And do that at both ends of all 3 pieces. It's going to help you line these up on those marks we've just made on our 30 by 30 angle. You will take your 30 by 30 angle and you'll make marks in the following locations. So from one end of your angle, you will measure exactly 12 millimetres. Okay, make a mark, and what I've done, so I don't lose these, is I've used my cutting disc on my angle grinder to put a little notch in at that mark. I do this for every mark here. Not too deep, just touch it, okay, so then you can't lose it. Don't cut into it and end up compromising your angle. Just a little notch like that is all that you need. So you'll do that 12 millimetres in from the end, then measure again from the end, measure along exactly 240 millimetres, make a mark, do the same, put a notch in it. Then from this end, you'll measure in 15 millimetres from the other end, make a mark, put another notch in. Now what I've done here is I've also put a notch in along this way, so I know this is the back of this piece of angle, because those measurements are different. It's 15 millimetres in from the back and it's 12 millimetres in from the front. You do this on both pieces. Okay guys, you're going to take your 475 millimetre lengths of 30 by 30 by 1.6 angle, and you're going to find the centre of it, okay, which is 15 millimetres. So make some marks along at 15 millimetres, put your ruler on, okay, and draw a line along the centre. Then from both ends, okay, you're going to measure in 30 millimetres and make a mark right on that centre line. You're going to measure in 80 millimetres and make a mark on that centre line. Then you're going to make a mark in the centre right where your centre notch is that you've already marked. Just put a mark right below that. Then from the other end, exactly the same as this end. Measure in 30 millimetres, okay, make a mark on the centre line. Then measure in 80 millimetres from the very end, make a mark on the centre line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to punch all 5 of these, okay, and you're going to drill using a 6 millimetre hole through these, because this is where we'll run our tech screws through here into our box on our top frame. Do this for both. Okay guys, this is how your 30 by 30 angle will be orientated, to have your holes that we've just drilled, our 6 mil holes located on the side of our 30 by 30 top frame, right? Making note that the little notch that we made in the rear or at the back end of our angle goes to the back end of our top frame, right? And I've got this orientated basically at the back of the frame. Obviously this is movable, so it doesn't matter where you set this up, but I'm setting it up roughly in the same location as our uni joint. The two pieces of 555 millimeter 25 by 25 that we measured that have the seat notches 45 millimeters in each, we'll orientate them first, okay? So this is why we take the notches out of our angle and out of our box so that we can line them up exactly together. All right, that's what you'll do with these two, okay? Now with your bracing for your seat, it's going to be a lot harder to set up because we've already built this. Right? It's top heavy, so it's going to fall over when you're trying to put clamps on this. So you're going to need to get some help to hold this on. So once you've lined this up and done exactly the same thing as the others, made sure that the box is inboard from the angle the same at both ends. See, this one's way out. And my notch is way out. So, you line these up with the notches, the same as the other side, and then make sure the distance from the box to the edge of the angle is the same at both ends. And you'll have to get a ruler and fiddle with it. You'll need to get some help to hold this, basically once you've got everything lined up, so then you can put your clamps on this, right? And then you're going to clamp, once you've got all these lined up, you're going to clamp all three of these. Now, if you don't have enough clamps, you can just do one at a time. No problems there, right? You can clamp this one, weld it onto your angle, all right? You may have to reline this one up once you've welded that one. I don't know. It depends on how things move when you weld. Obviously, when you go to weld, you're just going to tack this in 4 corners on both sides, right? And the same with the other end before you run your beads. Then you can weld that on at those locations. Then do your next one, exactly the same. Clamp it, both sides, tack it, 4 corners, then run your beads. And then you'll probably need to get someone to help you to hold that other piece while you clamp it. Then you do exactly the same with your seat bracing. And that's it, guys. Then we can put our seat on. It will line up at these locations where our little frame is that we've made on our seat. They line up with these lines, and then we will weld it on to this box. Okay, peeps, once you're done, see what you're going to have. Okay. Rightio. Now we just need to set our seat in the centre on our marks we've made here on both sides, and then we can get it tacked into position. Okay, so more or less, guys, this is what you're going to be left with once you've built your little frame. Now, you're not going to be moving it very much. Let's be realistic here. In fact, it'll probably end up just living in the one spot, which should be directly over your uni joint as much as possible for the right balance on this rig, which means that your rear section here, okay, will hang over the end of your frame a little bit. That's no big deal. Don't worry about that. But you want to basically line this up so then your seat bracing is sitting over your plate. That's where it's balanced for myself with my weight. So that's why it's good for this to be movable, because if you're lighter, you may need to move this forward a little bit, okay, for balance. Or you may need to move it aft, back a little bit, if you're bigger than I am. Anyway, that's just the flexibility we have with this setup, being able to move our seat now. Now let's talk about our little seat bracketing system here that we made. All right, now when this goes on, you'll do this with your seat connected, okay? Because otherwise you're not going to locate these properly. So you leave your seat bolted on to your little seat plate here, rightio, before you start welding, and then you're just going to do some light tacks, and then you can take your seat off and weld it in properly. All right. Now, as it's turned out with setting this up, and like I said, this was a work in progress on this new frame. A couple of things I can tell you. Our 45mm marks that we made inboard on our 25 by 25 here, okay, the front will line up exactly on those 45s on both sides, on that side and on this side. You can't see now because it's been welded over, but the outside of our 10 by 10 here will line up with that mark we made 45mm in. The back, as you can see, you can still see that mark. So it sits inboard from that mark, okay, about 15mm. So my weld has come out to that mark, and that's approximately 15mm. But the most important thing is that it's obviously lined up with the middle of our plate here, okay? And your seat, you'll have to line that up when you put it on your frame here anyway, before you weld this. You can use these definitely as a guide, okay? So the front section of your seat can go exactly on those 45 lines, and then the back, you'll just sort of move it left and right until you've got it centered. And then tack these onto your 25 by 25, tack this onto your 25 by 25. Same with this side, as I said, with this connected on your seat and bolted. And once you've got it all tacked, undo your bolts, take your seat away, and then you can weld this in earnest. Okay, so I'm going to put my seat back on this now, and we can have a look at this with the seat on. Okay, so my seat just went back on with minimum fuss, guys. That was actually pretty close. I didn't have to fiddle too much to get those bolts back in. So this is the seat on. And of course, guys, it goes without saying, you do make sure you weld your little seat bracket on the inside. So once you've removed your seat and you've started your welds in earnest, do weld it inside at both ends, inside and outside. Okay, guys, we're up to the final step of our seat frame. You'll need to get some of your 10 by 10mm solid square. You need to measure 435mm in length. Mark it, put a square on, get a straight line on there. Guys, then get your angle grinder and cut that off. So one piece of 10 by 10 solid square at 435mm. Cut that. Now what we're going to do with this 435mm piece of 10 by 10 square, we need to support the center of our seat. Being fiberglass, because this is basically just in the air here in the middle of the seat, it's supported at the back because the back of our seat sits on our 25 by 25 here. But because our center is just free-balling it, for want of a better word, this will pop. It'll pop up and down with your weight in the seat. So we need to get some bracing on our seat, right? So we're going to run our 10 by 10 square between our brackets here, which is also good because it will actually brace our brackets horizontally. Assuming you guys have gone with exactly the same as my build, you will see that our brackets of our seat, they do sit on a slight angle as they follow the seat contour. To get the 435 to fit in there snug, we'll need to put a little angle on that 10 by 10 that follows our seat, just a little bit, sort of like that on both ends. This one's sort of, you can really see this one more prominently, and you can just by eye, just follow the contour or follow that angle, and then you'll just grind a little bit of that off, right? And then that'll fit in really nice because we want it to be sitting on the bottom of our seat. So it gives our seat some support this way, as well as just from the bolts. And then we're going to run a piece from the center of this, right, sitting on the seat all the way up, and we'll weld it into our box. Okay, peeps, once you've got those angles cut in, this should sit in nice and flush. Okay, and you'll take off, we'll do our usual treatment. So the sides that are facing upways at us, you'll just bevel those ends, all right, to some nice fill weld. And you'll find that when you put this in, you'll actually be able to push it up. If you've cut it to the correct size, you'll be able to push it into your bracket a little bit, and it'll just sit in there firm. Don't push it too hard, or you're just pushing these brackets out and putting stress on your bolts. Just push it up so it sort of basically locks itself in. It doesn't have to be very hard. It'll sort of pinch in there. Okay, then it's there, and we'll be able to put a tack on here, and a tack on here, then we can weld. Okay, the doctor's got all of his parts cut here. He's got all his measurements written down here. He thinks he's Egyptian with his hieroglyphics and stuff here, but he's not Egyptian. The doctor doesn't know what he is because the doctor was adopted. Okay, so as I've already said, we've already cut our 435mm piece here. You need to measure the center of that, guys, which is 217.5mm. I've scored it with my angle grinder cutting disc, so I can't lose it when I clean it up. You'll need to cut a length of 295mm, and then from one end, doesn't matter, I've measured from this end, from the left, measure 170mm, make a mark, do the same. Score it with your angle grinder cutting disc. All right, and then you'll need to cut a length at 175mm, and you will need to find the center of that, which is 87.7mm, and score that. Okay, they're the three pieces you need to cut. This is all our 10mm by 10mm square solid. The other thing to note, guys, is where you score your 435mm piece, so the first piece that we cut, and then put our little angles on the end, okay? You need to score that because we'll be cleaning this up on the underside of that. Okay, so our angles that we've cut and our beveling that we've done on the ends of that 435mm piece, they'll be sitting upwards. So we need to measure and mark the bottom of that piece, okay, of our 435 10 by 10. Okay, you're going to stick your 175mm piece in a vise or flat on your table. Our 295mm piece that we've cut, and then we've measured our 170mm mark on that. That's got to sit center, right, center over there like that, okay? And then we're going to weld that on. We'll weld that on nice and straight. So you'll have to line it up, get it on straight, and then we are ready to then tack this on to our frame. So once you've got this tacked on, guys, just do one little tack, so because you won't get it straight. Okay, then get a square, just put a square on it. Rightio, once you've got it lined up how I showed you previously, give it one tack so you can just get it square, then get your square on it and get it square. Once it's square, tack the other side and then weld it. Okay, and this is what all the insanity is about. Okay, this will slot in like this. Okay, just like that. So we'll be connecting this one like this. Once we've welded that in, you'll find the center of your chair. Right, that cross piece sits flat on your chair. We've just welded in. We weld that to our 25 by 25 at the top, and then this welds on to our cross brace down here, and then that will brace our chair and also stop our chair from being able to concave in when we're sitting on it. Okay, that is the method behind the madness. Get this set up in position. Your 435mm piece, set it up, get it tacked first. Okay, guys, just take it slow, getting this set up, okay? Make sure you set up your center one in here where you've notched it. Okay, your center piece here, get it in the center of your seat at the back. Tack your 435mm piece in first, as we talked about. Right, slip this one in from the back, underneath and down. You'll have to hold it. You can hold it by the cross piece here. Get it lined up with the center of your chair at the back there. Get it lined up with your center notch on your 435 here that we've made. Okay, and then put a little tack in at the top here, and this will lift up naturally, like we always talk about it. It'll lift up, then it'll contact this guy underneath. Right, then you'll just put a tack in here. It's all tacked, okay, and now we take our seat off and then we'll weld this properly. Okay, peeps, once you're done, clean up all your welds. This is what you should be looking at. Okay, nice and centered in your frame. Your seat will come and sit on top of that now, and the bottom of your seat's going to be braced so that it can't sort of collapse under you. Very good, peoples. That concludes the seat frame build on our top frame. Okay, seat's back on, guys. We're all looking good. Right, and this is what you should be looking at under your seat with your new bracing. Okay, just bracing the underside of our seat here so it doesn't concave in with our weight, and just bracing our brackets to our seat bolt plates here. Okay, so the doctor gives you guys a thumbs up. He salutes you on your journey in building this 3 degree of freedom motion simulator platform. Now, we'll move on to our steering wheel assembly next. I may have to wait though, guys, because some exciting news for the doctor today. He decided to fork out and buy a CSL DD Fanatec direct drive wheel. And I've also ordered a set of the nice load cell Fanatec pedals, V3 pedals, and the CSL DD 5 Newton meter. And I've found out you can actually get a very cheap power supply to boost that up to the 8 Newton meter one. You don't need this. Well, in Australia, they sting you for like $250 for that bloody power pack to turn it into an 8 Newton meter. Well, I can get one off eBay for $78. Anyway, so it'll be an 8 Newton meter job once I've got that power supply to boost it. When I was using the dodgy tech G27, so I'm going to need to redesign the steering wheel frame. It'll be very similar to what we had, and obviously the pedal cage that holds the pedals is going to have to be redesigned as well. So the doctor will be working on that when those items arrive, and I've only ordered them today, so it could be another fortnight before they arrive. So you may not see another video from the doctor for a couple of weeks. Okay, so don't panic. He's just waiting on those items to arrive so I can design the rest of the peripherals around the new steering wheel setup. Big thank you to everyone who subscribed. Appreciate that, guys. Hit the bell there so you get notifications when the doctor is back with part 5 of our top frame build, guys. I'm excited to see you when we kick that off. So until then, guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and take it easy out there.